A gripping tale of new beginnings, Hollow Creek Farm follows Aria Lane as she flees her broken engagement for a seasonal farm job in the countryside. What starts as an impulsive escape transforms into an unexpected journey of healing, love, and self-discovery with the enigmatic farm owner Rowan Cade. Before we begin this story, comment below where you're watching from. The late-night bus rumbled down the highway, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Aria Lane sat near the back, her duffel bag tucked under her seat. She stared out the window, watching the city lights fade away. At 27, she should have been planning her wedding, not running away. Aria touched her phone screen, looking at the last text from her ex-fiancé, Derek. "You'll come crawling back when you realize what you've thrown away." She turned off her phone and shoved it into her pocket. 3 years of her life wasted on a man who had been cheating on her with her own assistant. The betrayal still felt like a fresh wound. The bus driver called out, "Hollow Creek, next stop." Aria grabbed her bag. This wasn't part of any plan. She'd seen an online ad for seasonal farm help and applied on impulse. The response had been brief. Room and board included. Start immediately. It was all she needed to know. When the bus doors opened, cool night air rushed in. Aria stepped down onto a gravel road beside a wooden sign that read, "Hollow Creek Farm, 1 mile." She took a deep breath and started walking. The moon lit her path as she trudged along, her city boots not made for country roads. After 20 minutes, she spotted lights ahead. A large farmhouse stood at the end of a long driveway, surrounded by fields and barns. As she approached, a man stepped onto the porch. The golden light from inside silhouetted his tall frame. He stood with his arms crossed, watching her. "You must be Aria," he called out. "Yes," she answered, suddenly aware of how she must look. Rumpled clothes, tired eyes, and probably smudged makeup. "I'm here about the job. I know it's late, but if you're running, this is a good place to stop," he said, his voice deep and steady. "And if you're staying, your future could be here, with me." Aria felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the night air. The man walked down the porch steps. "I'm Rowan Cade. Welcome to Hollow Creek Farm." Up close, Rowan was even more imposing, at least 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and strong hands that spoke of years of hard work. His face was handsome in a rugged way, with dark hair that curled at the nape of his neck and a short beard that didn't quite hide a scar along his jawline. "Let me show you where you'll be staying," he said, picking up her bag before she could protest. He led her to a small cottage behind the main house. Inside was simple but clean: a bed, a dresser, a small table, and a private bathroom. "It's not fancy," Rowan said, "but it's yours as long as you work here." "It's perfect," Aria said, meaning it. "No memories here, no ghosts." "We start at 5 a.m., he said. "I'll leave you to settle in. There's some food in the fridge." After he left, Aria sat on the bed and let out a long breath. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. The next morning came too soon. A knock on her door at 4:30. Damn jolted her awake. "Coffee's by the barn," Rowan called through the door. "Work clothes are in the dresser. Previous helper left them behind." Aria found jeans, flannel shirts, and sturdy boots that were only a size too big. She dressed quickly and made her way to the large red barn. True to his word, Rowan had left a thermos of coffee on a bench outside. He appeared a moment later, leading a beautiful chestnut horse. "This is Duchess. You'll be helping me with the horses first." "I've never worked with horses before," Aria admitted. Rowan studied her for a moment. "That's fine. I'll teach you." The morning passed in a blur of new tasks: mucking stalls, filling water troughs, and learning how to approach the horses safely. By noon, Aria's hands were blistered and her muscles ached in places she didn't know existed. "Lunch," Rowan said, simply nodding toward the house. In the kitchen, an older woman with silver hair tied in a bun was setting out sandwiches. "This is Martha," Rowan said. "She helps around the house 3 days a week." "Nice to meet you, dear," Martha said, her eyes curious but kind. "Not many city girls find their way out here." "Is it that obvious?" Aria asked, looking down at her. "Borrowed clothes, those manicured nails gave you away," Martha said with a smile. "Though they won't last long around here." Rowan ate quickly and excused himself, leaving Aria with Martha. "He doesn't talk much," Martha said after he left. "Not since Claire left him." Claire, his ex-wife, took him for nearly everything except the land. That was 4 years ago. Martha leaned in. Town still talks about it. She was from the city too, you know. Arya felt a sudden need to defend herself. I'm just here to work. Martha patted her hand. Of course, dear. Just thought you should know what you're walking into. This town loves its gossip. After lunch, Rowan showed Arya the vegetable gardens that supplied local restaurants and the weekend farmers market. This is your area now, he said. Watering, weeding, harvesting. Think you can handle it? I'll learn, Arya said firmly, as. Days turned into weeks. Arya settled into the rhythm of farm life. Her hands grew calloused, her skin tanned, and she slept better than she had in years. The physical work left little time for dwelling on the past. Rowan remained a mystery. He worked harder than anyone, up before dawn and still going after dark. Sometimes she caught him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. One evening, as Arya was feeding the horses, Rowan appeared with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. You're good with them, he said, handing her a mug. Duchess especially likes you. Arya smiled, stroking the horse's neck. She reminds me of myself, cautious at first, but friendly once she knows you're not going to hurt her. Something flickered in Rowan's eyes. How did you end up here, Arya? The question caught her off guard. He'd never asked about her past before. I needed a change, she said carefully. Most people don't find change on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Maybe that's exactly where change finds you, she replied. Rowan looked at her differently then, as if really seeing her for the first time. The next morning, Arya found a new pair of leather gloves hanging on her door with a note. For your hands. That evening, Martha invited her to dinner at the main house. Rowan had set the table for 3, something Martha said with a wink that he'd never done before. The meal was simple but delicious. Roast chicken, vegetables from the garden, and fresh bread. I looked you up, Rowan said suddenly. Arya Lane, marketing executive at Weber & Klein, quite the career. Arya nearly choked on her water. Ex-marketing executive. Want to talk about it? Not really. Martha cleared her throat. I'll just get dessert, she said, retreating to the kitchen. Whatever you're running from, Rowan said once they were alone, it doesn't follow you here unless you let it. Is that what happened with Claire? The words slipped out before Arya could stop them. Rowan's face hardened. Martha talks too much. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... No, he interrupted. You're right to ask. Claire was a mistake I'm still paying for. She married the farm, not me. When she realized country living wasn't as glamorous as she thought, she left. Took half my money with her. That's why you built the wall, Arya said. Softly, what wall? The one around you. I noticed it the first day. Rowan looked at her for a long moment, then unexpectedly smiled. You notice a lot for someone who's just passing through. After that night, something shifted between them. Rowan began teaching Arya to ride Duchess. He showed her how to drive the tractor and took her to the farmer's market, where she discovered she had a knack for sales. One weekend, they delivered produce to a high-end restaurant in town. The chef recognized Arya immediately. Aren't you Derek Peterson's fiancé? I saw you in that charity gala spread last year. Arya felt her chest tighten. Ex-fiancé? The chef looked confused. But he was just in here last week talking about his upcoming wedding. Rowan stepped between them. We need to get back to the farm. In the truck, Arya stared out the window, fighting tears. Want to talk about it now? Rowan asked quietly. The story poured out. How she'd caught Derek cheating. How he'd used his influence to get her fired when she confronted him. How she'd fled the city when the gossip became too much. He told everyone I had a breakdown, she said bitterly. Maybe I did. You found your strength, Rowan corrected. That's different. That night, Arya couldn't sleep. She walked out to the field under a sky full of stars. In the city, you could barely see them. Couldn't sleep either. Rowan's voice startled her. Too many thoughts, she admitted. He stood beside her, looking up. Sometimes I come out here just to remember how small my problems are compared to all that. Does it help? Some nights. He turned to face her. You know, I've never met anyone who works as hard as you do without complaining. I'm just grateful for the chance to start over. Is that what you're doing? Starting over? I don't know what I'm doing, she confessed. I just know I feel safe here. Rowan took a step closer. You are safe here, Arya. The moment stretched, between them filled with possibility, but Arya stepped back, not ready for whatever was happening. I should get some sleep, she said. Good night, Arya. The next morning, a sleek black car pulled up to the farm. A woman in a designer suit stepped out, looking completely out of place. Arya Lane, she called. I'm Jennifer Walsh from Weber & Klein. Arya froze, her hands still dirty from the garden. Your old position is available, Jennifer said. The company wants to make amends. Derek has moved on, and the board feels your dismissal was hasty. What are you saying? We want you back. With a promotion and a public apology, your reputation will be restored. Arya felt lightheaded. Everything she thought she'd wanted was being handed back to her. I need time to think, she managed to say. Of course. We need your answer by the end of the week. Jennifer handed her a business card and drove away. Arya didn't notice Rowan standing by the barn, watching everything with a face that had gone completely blank. That evening, he didn't come to dinner. Martha found Arya on the porch afterward. He heard about the job offer, Martha said. Saw it coming a mile away. City girl like you was never going to stay. I haven't decided anything, Arya protested. Doesn't matter, he's already decided for you. Martha sighed. That man is too used to people leaving. The next day, Rowan was distant. All business, no personal conversation. When Arya tried to bring up the job offer, he cut her off. You don't owe me any explanations. Do what's best for you. As the week passed, the wall between them grew higher. Arya tried to sort through her feelings, wondering if going back was really what she wanted. On Friday, she walked out to the field where she and Rowan had stood under the stars. She found him kneeling by the fence, fixing the post she always leaned on when watching the sunset. You were right, she said. I was running. But what you didn't know is I was running toward something too. Toward peace, toward quiet, toward you. Rowan looked up, surprise and hope crossing his face. For the first time, he reached out without hesitation, but before he could speak, the sound of tires on gravel made them both turn. A silver sports car pulled up. The door opened, and out stepped a tall, handsome man in an expensive suit. Arya, he called. Thank God I found you. Arya felt the blood drain from her face. Derek, she whispered. Her ex-fiancé walked toward them, pulling a suitcase from the back seat. We need to talk, he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. It's about the contract you signed, the one that ties your future to mine. Rowan looked from Derek to Arya, his expression closing off once more. And Arya knew that whatever peace she'd found at Hollow Creek Farm was about to be shattered. Derek's presence cast a shadow over the farm. He stood there in his designer suit, looking as out of place as a peacock in a chicken coop, holding his suitcase like he intended to stay. What are you doing here? Arya asked, her voice shaking. Looking for you, of course, Derek said, his smile perfect and practiced. You disappeared without a word. Everyone's been worried sick. Everyone? Arya crossed her arms. Or just you, worried about what I might say? Rowan stood silently beside her, his expression unreadable. Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend? Derek asked, his eyes dismissively scanning Rowan's work clothes. This is Rowan Cade. He owns Hollow Creek Farm. Arya turned to Rowan. This is Derek Peterson, my ex-fiancé. Ex? Derek laughed. That's a bit hasty, don't you think? We had a misunderstanding, that's all. You call sleeping with my assistant a misunderstanding? Arya shot back. Derek's smile faltered. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Rowan finally spoke. I have work to do. He turned to leave, his shoulders stiff. Rowan, wait. Arya reached for him, but he was already walking away. Let him go, Derek said, moving closer. We have important matters to discuss. There's nothing to discuss. We're done. Not according to the contract you signed. Derek's voice hardened. Remember the investment agreement for our shared property? The one you signed without reading the fine print? A cold feeling spread through Arya's chest. What about it? It ties you to me financially for the next 5 years. If you refuse to honor it, I can sue you for every penny you have and don't have. That's blackmail. That's business, Derek corrected smoothly. Now let's go somewhere and talk like adults. Arya led him to her cottage, acutely aware of how small and simple it must look to someone like Derek. He set his suitcase down and looked around with barely disguised disdain. So this is where you've been hiding. Quaint. What do you really want, Derek? You didn't come all this way to discuss a contract. Derek loosened his tie. The company wants you back, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because your little disappearing act is making me look bad. Making you look bad? After what you did to me? Listen, the board is pushing for your return. They think it looks bad firing you the way they did. But the truth is, they need you. That Holbrook account you landed, they're struggling without you. Arya felt a small flicker of satisfaction. Not my problem anymore. It could be your opportunity, Derek said. Come back with me. Take the promotion. We can put all this behind us. And what about us? You expect me to just forgive and forget? Derek sighed dramatically. Arya, what happened with Jessica was a mistake. I was stressed. You were always working late. Don't you dare blame me for your cheating. Fine. It was all my fault. He conceded too easily. But we had something good, didn't we? 3 years together, a future planned. A future you destroyed, Arya said quietly. Derek moved to the window, looking out at the farm. And this is your future instead. Dirt under your fingernails and hay in your hair. His words stung because they echoed her own doubts. What was she doing here, really? I like it here, she said, more to convince herself than him. For now, Derek said, but you'll get bored. You're not made for this life, Arya. You're made for boardrooms and city lights. You don't know me as well as you think you do. Derek turned back to her. I know that contract gives me leverage. Either you come back with me or I'll make sure you pay, literally. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. Come back to the city, take the job, and I'll tear up the contract. Or stay here and face financial ruin when I take you to court. Arya felt trapped. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning, Derek said, checking his expensive watch. I've booked a room at that charming little inn in town. I'll expect your answer by breakfast. After he left, Arya sank onto her bed, her mind racing. The job offer had been tempting enough, but now with Derek's threats hanging over her, she felt cornered. She needed to talk to Rowan, but he had made himself scarce. He wasn't in the barn or the fields. Martha had already gone home for the day. Arya felt more alone than she had in weeks. As the sun set, she heard the sound of a tractor returning. She hurried out to find Rowan parking it by the equipment shed. Rowan, I need to talk to you. Nothing to talk about, he said, not looking at her. Your boyfriend made things pretty clear. He's not my boyfriend. And nothing is clear right now. Rowan finally turned to face her. Isn't it? The city's calling. You back, it's where you belong. You don't know where I belong, Arya said, frustration building. And neither does Derek. Then why is he here with a suitcase? Because he's trying to manipulate me. He's threatening to sue me over a contract I didn't understand when I signed it. That got Rowan's attention. What kind of contract? Arya explained. About the investment agreement for the apartment they had bought together. How Derek had insisted she sign it quickly, assuring her it was just formality. He says it ties me to him financially for 5 years. If I don't go back with him, he'll take me to court. Rowan's expression darkened. So you're going back? I don't know what I'm doing, Arya cried. I just found my footing here and now he shows up threatening to pull the rug out from under me again. What do you want, Arya? Rowan asked, his voice softening. Not what he wants, not what the company wants. What do you want? The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her. That in a long time. I want peace, she said finally. I want to wake up in the morning and not dread the day ahead. I want to be around people who don't expect me to be perfect all the time. And where do you find that? Here or in the city? Arya looked around at the farm, at the fields bathed in the golden light of sunset, at the horses grazing peacefully in the distance. Here, she whispered, with you. The admission hung in the air between them. Rowan took a step toward her, then stopped, caution in his eyes. If that's true, then find a way to fight him, he said. Don't let him bully you back into a life you ran away from. I don't know how, Arya admitted. I can't afford a lawyer to go up against him. Maybe you don't have to. Rowan was quiet for a moment, thinking. I know someone who might be able to help. My cousin Sarah is a lawyer in the next county. She helped me when Claire tried to take the farm. Hope flickered inside Arya. You'd do that for me? I'd do a lot of things for you, Arya. The words were simple but filled with meaning. She reached for his hand, and this time he didn't pull away. His skin was rough with calluses, warm and strong. Why? She asked. You barely know me. I know enough, he said. I know you work hard without complaining. I know you're kind to my animals. I know you talk to the plants when you think no one's listening. Arya blushed. You heard that? I see you, Arya. The real you, not the one you pretend to be for everyone else. The tenderness in his voice made her throat tight. And you still like what you see? More than I should, he admitted. Enough to fight for you to stay, if that's what you want. For the first time since Derek had arrived, Arya felt like she could breathe again. Will your cousin really help me? Let me call her. If anyone can find a loophole in that contract, it's Sarah. They walked back to the house together, not touching but closer somehow. In the kitchen, Rowan made the call while Arya sat at the table, hope and fear battling inside her. She'll meet us tomorrow morning at her office, Rowan said after hanging. Up. Bring whatever paperwork you have. I don't have anything. It's all back in the city apartment. Then we'll work with what Derek brings. Sarah says if he's using the contract as leverage, he'll have a copy with him. That night, Arya couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the last few months in her mind. Her life in the city, that had looked so perfect on the outside but had been crumbling underneath, and her unexpected new life here at Hollow Creek Farm. In the morning, Rowan was waiting for her with coffee and a determined look on his face. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. They drove to town in Rowan's truck. Derek was waiting at the inn's restaurant, looking impatient. I thought you'd be alone, he said when he saw Rowan. Change of plans, Arya said. We're going to meet someone who can help us understand this contract better. Derek's confident smile faltered. That's not necessary. I've already explained the terms. I'd like a second opinion, Arya insisted. From a lawyer. You got yourself a lawyer? Derek laughed, but it sounded forced. That's a waste of money you don't have. Not if it keeps me from making another mistake. They all drove separately to Sarah's office in the next town over. Sarah Cade was a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, with Rowan's same direct gaze. I understand you have a contract dispute, she said, getting straight to business. Derek pulled a folder from his briefcase. There's no dispute. The terms are clear. Arya agreed to jointly manage our investment property for 5 years. If either party fails to uphold their end, they forfeit their share and pay penalties. Sarah took the contract and read through it carefully. And how exactly is Ms. Lane failing to uphold her end? She abandoned the property without notice, Derek said smoothly. She hasn't contributed to mortgage payments in 2 months. From what I understand, Ms. Lane was terminated from her position under suspicious circumstances right after discovering your infidelity, Sarah said, her tone neutral but her eyes sharp. Could that be considered constructive eviction? Derek shifted uncomfortably. Her employment has nothing to do with this agreement, doesn't it? Sarah flipped to another page. This clause here ties the contract to both parties maintaining their current employment status. You were both employed at Weber & Klein when this was signed, correct? Yes, and now the company is offering to rehire Ms. Lane. Interesting timing. Arya looked at Sarah in amazement. The lawyer had spotted something in minutes that Arya would never have noticed. Sarah continued reading. Mr. Peterson, did you disclose to Ms. Lane that you had already taken out a second mortgage on the property when this was signed? Derek's face flushed. That's not relevant. It is when this clause requires full disclosure of all existing liens against the property. Sarah looked up. This contract is full of problems, Mr. Peterson. Unenforceable problems. For the first time, Derek looked worried. You can't just declare a legal document invalid. I can when it shows clear evidence of bad faith dealing. Sarah gathered the papers together. In my professional opinion, Ms. Lane has grounds to not only walk away from this agreement, but potentially countersue for misrepresentation. Derek stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous, Arya. If you want to throw away your career over some farm fantasy, that's your choice. But don't come crying to me when you're broke and bored in 6 months. After he stormed out, Sarah smiled at Arya. He knows he doesn't have a leg to stand on. The contract was designed to intimidate, not to withstand legal scrutiny. Relief flooded through Arya. I don't know how to thank you. No need, Sarah said, glancing at her cousin. Any friend of Rowan's is a friend of mine. Besides, I've seen too many city slickers try to bulldoze good people. It's satisfying to stop them. On the drive back to the farm, Arya felt lighter than she had in months. I can't believe it was that easy. Sarah's the best, Rowan said. But don't think this is over. Derek doesn't strike me as the type to give up easily. At least now I know he can't ruin me financially, and I don't have to go back to the city. Rowan glanced at her. What about the job offer? That's still on the table, isn't it? It is, Arya admitted, but I'm not sure I want it anymore. You'd turn down a corporate job to keep working on a farm? Is that so hard to believe? Rowan was quiet for a moment. I just don't want you to make decisions based on running away from something, or because you feel obligated to stay. I'm not, Arya said firmly. For the first time in years, I'm making a decision based on what I actually want. That evening, Arya called Jennifer Walsh at Weber & Klein and declined the job offer. The call was brief but cordial. Jennifer seemed to understand, even wish her well. Arya found Rowan in the barn brushing down Duchess. It's done, she said. I turned down the job. Rowan set down the brush. Are you sure that's what you want? I'm sure I don't want to go back to a place where appearances matter more than truth, where I spent more time managing other people's perceptions than actually living my life. Rowan took a step toward her. And what do you want your life to be now? Simpler, more honest. She moved closer to him, with someone who sees the real me. His hands came up to cup her face, calloused palms gentle against her skin. I've been seeing you since the moment you walked up my driveway with that too heavy bag and those city shoes. When he kissed her, it felt like coming home, not to a place but to herself. The next morning, Arya woke to the sound of a car engine. She looked out her cottage window to see Derek's silver sports car pulling up to the farmhouse. Instead of dread, she felt only determination as she quickly dressed and went outside. Derek was already on the porch talking to Rowan. Neither man looked happy. What now, Derek? Arya called as she approached. Derek turned to her. I've been thinking about our situation. I'm willing to make you a better offer. I'm not interested in any offer from you. Hear me out, Derek insisted. The company's desperate. To have you back, they'll double your salary, give you Jessica's position as well as your own. And what do you get out of this? Rowan asked, his voice hard. Derek's smile was thin. I get to keep my job. The board wasn't happy when they learned how our personal situation affected company business. Understanding dawned on Arya. You're in trouble. Let's just say your departure caused more waves than anticipated, Derek admitted. The Holbrook account is threatening to pull out. They liked working with you. So now I'm supposed to come back and save your career? Arya shook her head. Not going to happen. Think about what you're turning down, Derek pressed. Double salary, corner office, company car. All the things we talked about. All the things you wanted. Things you thought I wanted, Arya corrected. Maybe I've found something better, Derek scoffed. What, him? He jerked his head toward Rowan. You're trading your career for a role in the hay with Farmer John? Rowan stepped forward, but Arya put a hand on his arm. His name is Rowan Cade, she said calmly, and he owns a multi-million-dollar organic farming operation that supplies half the high-end restaurants in the region. He's more successful than you'll ever be, Derek. The difference is he doesn't need to brag about it. Derek looked surprised, then quickly covered it. So that's it? You're choosing this life over everything. We didn't build anything real, Arya said. It was all for show, the perfect couple, the power duo. I was miserable trying to keep up appearances. And you think you'll be happy here? Derek looked around dismissively. Waking up at dawn, getting your hands dirty, living in the middle of nowhere. Happier than I ever was with you. Something in her voice must have convinced him, because his shoulders sagged slightly. So you're making a mistake, Arya. No, I'm fixing one, she replied. Goodbye, Derek. He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead turned and walked back to his car. As he drove away, Arya felt the last piece of her old life going with him. Rowan put his arm around her shoulders. You okay? Better than okay, she said, leaning into him. I feel free. They stood together, watching the dust settle on the road. Did you mean what you said? Rowan asked after a while. About being happier here. Arya looked up at him. Yes, but there's something I need to know. What's that? What? Did you mean that first night? When you said my future could be here with you? Were you just talking about the job? Rowan's eyes crinkled at the corners. I'd like to say I was that smooth, but truthfully, the moment I saw you walking up that road, something told me you belonged here, not just on the farm, but with me. Pretty presumptuous, Arya teased. Maybe. But I was right, wasn't I? As the morning sun rose higher over Hollow Creek Farm, Arya knew she had found something she never expected, not just an escape, but a place where she could truly begin again. Yes, she said, you were right, but what neither of them knew was that Derek's departure wasn't the end of their troubles. It was just the beginning, because even as they stood together on the porch, a letter was making its way to Hollow Creek Farm, a letter that would reveal a secret about Rowan's past that could change everything. A week passed with no sign of Derek. Life at Hollow Creek Farm settled back into its rhythm, but with one important difference. Arya and Rowan were now more than employer and employee. They moved cautiously, both aware of their own scars, but there was no denying the connection between them. One morning, Arya was sorting through the mail when she found an official-looking envelope addressed to Rowan. She set it aside on the kitchen counter, thinking nothing of it. Later that day, she found Rowan standing at the counter, the letter open in his hands, his face pale. What's wrong? She asked, setting down the basket of tomatoes she'd just harvested. Nothing, he said quickly, folding the letter and putting it in his pocket. Just business. But Arya had seen the change in him. Rowan, talk to me. What was in that letter? He hesitated, then sighed. It's from Claire's lawyer. Your ex-wife, what does she want? Money, what else? His jaw tightened. She's contesting the divorce settlement, says she's entitled to more of the farm's current value since it's grown since we split. Arya felt a chill. Can she do that? I don't know. Sarah's looking into it. He ran a hand through his hair. Just when things were going well. Hey, Arya said, moving closer to him. We'll figure this out just like we did with Derek. Rowan gave her a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. This is different. Claire knows exactly where to hurt me. She always has. The next few days, Rowan was distracted, spending hours on the phone with Sarah and poring over paperwork at night. Arya tried to take on more of the farm work to give him space, but she worried about the distance growing between them. On Friday, Martha found Arya in the garden. He gets like this, the older woman said without preamble. Closes himself off when he's worried. I wish he'd let me help, Arya said, pulling weeds with more force than necessary. Claire did a number on him, Martha sighed. Not just taking his money. She made him doubt himself, made him think everything he built wasn't good enough. That's ridiculous. This farm is amazing. What he's done here is incredible. Martha smiled knowingly. Maybe you should tell him that. That evening, Arya found Rowan in the barn, methodically brushing down Duchess, his movements mechanical. I brought you dinner, she said, setting a plate on a nearby bench. Since you missed it. Thanks, he said without looking up. I'll eat in a bit. Arya took a deep breath. Martha told me a little about Claire. Rowan's hands stilled. Martha talks too much. Or maybe you don't talk enough, Arya countered. You've been avoiding me for days. I've been busy. Too busy to let me help? Too busy to even tell me what's going on? Rowan finally turned to face her. What do you want me to say, Arya? That my ex-wife is trying to take what little I have left, that I might lose everything I've worked for? I want you to stop shutting me out, Arya said. I thought we were in this together. This isn't your problem. It is if I care about you. Arya stepped closer. And I do, Rowan. More than I expected to. Something in his expression softened. I'm not good at letting people in, especially when things get rough, I noticed, Arya said with a small smile. But I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you want me to. Rowan set down the brush and closed the distance between them. That's the last thing I want. When he kissed her, it was like a dam breaking. All the tension of the past few days melted away, replaced by a warmth that spread through her entire body. Later, sitting on a bale of hay, Rowan finally told her everything. How he'd met Claire in the city, where he'd been working as an agricultural consultant. How she'd convinced him to buy the struggling farm, promising to build a life there together. How she'd grown bored and resentful within months, spending more time in the city than at home. The divorce was ugly, he said quietly. She took most of our savings and nearly half the land. I had to sell that portion just to keep the rest of the farm running. But you rebuilt, Arya pointed out. The farm is successful now. That's why she's back. She heard about the organic certification, the restaurant contracts. She wants a piece of it. What does Sarah think? She thinks we can fight it, but... Rowan hesitated. But what? There's something I haven't told you, something that could complicate things. Arya's heart sank. What is it? Claire and I... He looked away. We never signed the final paperwork. Technically, we're still married. The words hit Arya like a physical blow. What? The divorce was almost complete. We had the settlement agreement, the division of assets, everything. But the final decree... I was supposed to file it, but with the farm struggling, I was working. 18-hour days. It slipped through the cracks. For 4 years. Arya stood up, suddenly needing space. I thought it was done, Rowan said desperately. I only found out when Sarah started looking into Claire's claim. She discovered the missing paperwork. So all this time, when you've been married? Arya felt sick. Were you ever going to tell me? I just did, Rowan said, as soon as I understood what it meant. And what does it mean, Rowan? It means Claire has more leverage than we thought. It means I might lose more than just money. He looked around the barn. I might lose the farm. Arya tried to process everything. And us? What does it mean for us? It doesn't change how I feel about you, Rowan said, standing to face her, but I understand if it changes how you feel about me. I need time to think, Arya said, backing toward the door. This is a lot. Outside, the evening air did nothing to cool the heat in her cheeks. Married, Rowan was still married. After everything she'd been through with Derek, the last thing she needed was to be caught in another complicated relationship. She walked to her cottage, her mind spinning. Was this a sign she should have taken the job in the city? Was she making another mistake by getting involved with Rowan? A knock on her door startled her from her thoughts. She opened it to find Martha standing there, a concerned look on her face. He told you, didn't he? The older woman asked. You knew? Arya stepped back to let her in. Found out yesterday when Sarah called. She wanted me to help look for the paperwork. Martha sat on the edge of Arya's bed. He's beside himself, you know. Thinks you'll leave now. I don't know what I'm going to do, Arya admitted. I thought I was finally moving forward and now... This... Can I give you some advice? Martha asked. Having seen more than my share of life's messes? Arya nodded. Don't judge a man by his mistakes. Judge him by how he handles them. Martha's eyes were kind but direct. Rowan made a mistake, yes, but he's not hiding from it. He's facing it head-on, trying to make it right. It's not just the mistake, Arya said. It's what it means. Claire is still his wife. She has a claim on him, on the farm, on his future. Only if he lets her, Martha said firmly. Only if you let her. The next morning, a sleek black car pulled up to the farm. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, and expensively dressed. Even from a distance, Arya knew it had to be Claire. Rowan was already walking toward the car, his posture rigid. Arya watched. From the porch, her heart in her throat. Claire's voice carried across the yard. Hello, husband. Surprised to see me? What are you doing here, Claire? Rowan's voice was cold. Just thought we should talk face to face. Claire glanced around. The place looks better than I expected. Those organic certifications really paid off, didn't they? If you're here to discuss terms, you should talk to my lawyer. Always so businesslike, Claire pouted. Is that any way to talk to your wife? Arya couldn't stand it anymore. She walked down the porch steps and across the yard to stand beside Rowan. Hi there, she said, forcing a smile. I'm Arya. Claire's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. And who might you be? I work here, Arya said simply. And I live here. How rustic. Claire's smile was sharp. Rowan always did have a soft spot. For strays. Rowan tensed beside her. Claire, say what you came to say and then leave. Fine. Claire's tone turned businesslike. My lawyer tells me we're still legally married. That means I'm entitled to half of everything you've built since our separation. You already took half, Rowan said. More than half. That was then. This is now. Claire looked around appreciatively. And now, you've done quite well for yourself. I want my share. Or? Arya asked, unable to help herself. Claire's gaze shifted to her, assessing. Or we go to court. Drag everything out in the open. I'm sure the local banks would be interested to know about the shaky legal standing of their star client. You'd risk the farm's reputation just to get more money, Rowan asked incredulously. Business is business, Claire said with a shrug. You're the one who taught me that. What do you want exactly? Arya asked. $500,000, Claire? Said without hesitation. A fair price for my share of the current operation. Rowan laughed bitterly. You know I don't have that kind of cash. Then sell some land or take out a loan. Claire smiled sweetly. Or we can finalize our divorce properly and work out a new settlement. Your choice. With that, she got back in her car and drove away, leaving a cloud of dust and tension behind her. She's bluffing, Arya said when Claire was gone. She wouldn't really risk your reputation. Yes, she would, Rowan said grimly. She did it before, telling suppliers I couldn't pay my bills when we were splitting up. It took years to rebuild those relationships. Then we'll fight her, Arya said firmly. Together. Rowan looked at her in surprise. Together? I'm not running away from this, Rowan. Not from you, not from us. She took his hand. We'll find a way. Relief washed over his face. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Arya teased, but you've got me anyway. They spent the day brainstorming with Sarah over the phone. The options weren't great. Either pay Claire off or fight a potentially lengthy legal battle. What about finalizing the divorce properly? Arya suggested. Wouldn't that be cleaner? It would, Sarah agreed over the speakerphone. But Claire would still have grounds to contest the original settlement. The longer time passes, the stronger her case that she deserves a portion of the current value. So we're back to either paying her or fighting her, Rowan said, frustration evident in his voice. Let me look into a few more angles, Sarah said. In the meantime, don't agree to anything. And Rowan, don't lose hope, we'll figure this out. After hanging up, Rowan looked more defeated than Arya had ever seen him. Maybe I should just sell the South Pasture, he said. It would cover what she wants. No, Arya said firmly. That's exactly what she's counting on. You giving up. What choice do I have? You have me, Arya reminded him. And I happen to know a thing or two about public relations and marketing. Rowan looked confused. How does that help us? Claire's threat is to damage your reputation with the banks, right? What if we strengthened it instead? Made Hollow Creek Farm so valuable and respected that no bank would risk losing you as a client. A spark of interest lit Rowan's eyes. What are you thinking? A campaign. Farm-to-table events, tours for local schools, press coverage about sustainable farming. Make Hollow Creek the poster child for everything good about modern agriculture. For the first time that day, Rowan smiled. You really think that would work? It's worth a try, Arya said, and it plays to our strengths, not hers. Over the next 2 weeks, they threw themselves into the plan. Arya contacted her old media connections, arranging for a popular food blogger to visit. They hosted a dinner for local restaurant owners, showcasing the farm's produce. She even organized a children's day, where families could learn about organic farming. The response was overwhelming. The blog post went viral, leading to inquiries from restaurants in neighboring states. A regional TV station did a feature on Hollow Creek's sustainable practices. Even the bank manager called, interested in discussing expansion loans. Claire's lawyer called Sarah, his tone noticeably less confident. He suggested a meeting to reassess the situation. The night before. The meeting, Arya found Rowan sitting on the porch swing, looking up at the stars. "Penny, for your thoughts," she said, sitting beside him. "I was just thinking about how much has changed since you arrived," he said, putting his arm around her. "I was so closed off, so sure I was better off alone. And now? Now I can't imagine this place without you." He turned to face her. "I can't imagine my life without you." Arya's heart swelled. "Good thing you don't have to. About tomorrow, whatever happens with Claire, I want you to know something." He took her hands in his. "You saved this farm. You saved me." "We saved each other," Arya corrected gently. The meeting the next day was held at Sarah's office. Claire looked less confident than before, glancing nervously at her lawyer. "My client is willing to reconsider her position," the lawyer began. "That's generous," Sarah said dryly, "considering the circumstances." "What circumstances?" Claire asked sharply. Sarah smiled. "The fact that your attempt to extort my client coincided with Hollow Creek Farm's most successful month ever. The fact that 3 major banks have now contacted Mr. Cade about investment opportunities, or perhaps the fact that we've uncovered some interesting discrepancies in your original financial disclosures." Claire's face paled. "What discrepancies?" "The offshore account you forgot to mention during the settlement," Sarah said calmly. "The one where you transferred funds right before filing for separation." "That's a lie," Claire hissed, but her eyes darted to her lawyer. "Is it?" Sarah pushed a folder across the table. "These are the bank records. We're prepared to not only defend against your current claims, but to countersue for fraud." The room was silent as Claire flipped through the pages, her composure cracking. "Here's our offer," Sarah continued. "We complete the divorce immediately, with no additional claims from either party. You sign a non-disclosure agreement about the farm's operations, and we don't pursue the hidden assets." "That's blackmail," Claire's lawyer sputtered. "That's negotiation," Sarah corrected. "Take it or leave it." Claire closed the folder. "Fine, draw up the papers." 2 hours later, it was done. The divorce would be finalized within 30 days, and Claire would have no further claims on Hollow Creek Farm. As they walked to the truck, Arya couldn't contain her curiosity. "Was there really an offshore account?" Sarah grinned. "Let's just say Claire had a shoe addiction she didn't want Rowan to know about. The offshore account was a bit of creative interpretation." Rowan looked stunned. "So it worked? It's over?" "It's over," Sarah confirmed. "Congratulations, cousin. In a month, you'll officially be a free man." On the drive back to the farm, Rowan was quiet, processing everything. When they pulled up to the house, he turned to Arya. "Move in with me," he said. Suddenly, "What?" "Into the main house. I'm tired of saying goodnight and watching you walk to the cottage. I want to wake up with you every morning." Arya's heart raced. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Rowan said. "I love you, Arya. I think I've loved you since you walked up my driveway in those ridiculous city shoes." Arya laughed through sudden tears. "I love you too, and yes, I'll move in with you." That weekend, they celebrated with a small dinner at the house. Martha, Sarah, and a few of the farm workers gathered around the table, laden with food from the garden. "To new beginnings," Rowan toasted, his eyes never leaving Arya's. "And to where the future waits," she added, raising her glass. As the evening wound down, Arya stepped outside for a moment of quiet. The farm spread out before her, peaceful under the starlight. She could hardly believe how much her life had changed in just a few months. She didn't hear Rowan come up behind her until his arms wrapped around her waist. "Happy?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. "More than I ever thought possible," she admitted. "I was thinking," he said, turning her to face him, "once the divorce is final, maybe we could make this official." Arya's heart skipped a beat. "Are you proposing?" "Not yet," Rowan said with a smile. "But consider this advance notice. I'm going to ask you to marry me, Arya Lane, and I'm really hoping you'll say yes." "Ask me and find out," she teased. Inside, the phone rang. Martha called from the door. "Rowan, it's Jennifer from Weber and Klein on the phone. Says it's urgent. Rowan frowned. Jennifer, the one who offered you the job? Maybe they're trying again, Arya said with a shrug. I'll tell her I'm happy where I am. But when she took the phone, Jennifer's voice was tense. Arya, I know you. Turned down our offer, but something's happened. It's about Derek. What about him? Arya asked, a knot forming in her stomach. He's been fired. The board found out he was using company resources to track your whereabouts, accessing your personal files, even monitoring your credit cards. But that's not why I'm calling. Then why are you? Because he's disappeared. Cleaned out his office. Yesterday and hasn't been seen since. And Arya, he was asking a lot of questions about Rowan, about the farm, about your relationship. Arya felt cold all over. You think he's coming here? I think you should be careful, Jennifer said. Derek doesn't handle rejection well. He never has. After hanging up, Arya told Rowan everything. His face hardened as he listened. I'll call the sheriff, he said. Have them keep an eye out for his car. Do you think he'd really do something dangerous? Arya asked. I don't know, Rowan said honestly. But I'm not taking any chances when it comes to you. They locked the doors that night, something they rarely did on the farm. Arya lay awake, listening to every sound, wondering if Derek was out there somewhere, watching, waiting. In the morning, everything seemed normal. No sign of Derek or his silver sports car. After a few days, Arya began to relax. Maybe Jennifer was overreacting. Maybe Derek had just needed a fresh start like she had. A week later, Arya was alone at the farm. Rowan had gone to a meeting with a new restaurant client, and Martha had the day off. Arya was in the garden, harvesting tomatoes, when she heard a car pull up. Thinking it was Rowan returning early, she smiled and headed toward the driveway. But it wasn't Rowan's truck. It was Derek's silver sports car. Arya froze as Derek stepped out, looking different than before. Gone was the polished executive. This Derek was unshaven, his eyes bloodshot, his expensive shirt wrinkled. Hello, Arya, he said, his voice eerily calm. We need to talk. Derek, you shouldn't be here, Arya said, backing up slowly. Oh, but I should. He followed her, matching her steps. I've been doing some research on your boyfriend. Did you know his first wife left him because he has a temper? Did you know he nearly lost the farm because of bad decisions? That's not true, Arya said, though doubt flickered. Rowan had never mentioned a temper. No, Derek laughed. I've spent weeks digging up everything I could find on Rowan Cade. Want to know what else I found? Derek, you need help, Arya said, trying to keep her voice steady. This isn't healthy. What's not healthy is you throwing away your life for some farmer you barely know. Derek's voice rose. I gave you everything, Arya, everything, and you just walked away like it meant nothing. You cheated on me, Arya reminded him. You got me fired. I made one mistake, Derek shouted. One? And I've been paying for it ever since. The board watches every move I make. My reputation is in tatters, all because you couldn't forgive me. He was getting more agitated, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. Arya glanced toward the house, wondering if she could make it inside before he caught her. I'm happy here, Derek, she said, trying to calm him. I've moved on. You need to do the same. Happy? Derek sneered. Playing farmhand and sleeping with a guy who's still married? Oh yes, I know all about that too. What a mess you've gotten yourself into, Arya. Derek, please leave, Arya said, taking another step back. Before Rowan gets back. I'm not afraid of him, Derek said, moving closer. In fact, I'd like to meet him. Tell him exactly what kind of woman you really are. And what kind is that? Rowan's voice came from behind Derek. Derek spun around. Rowan stood there, his expression dangerously calm. The kind who runs when things get tough, Derek spat. The kind who'll leave you too, once she gets bored of playing country girl. I think you should go, Rowan said, his voice low. Now. Or what? Derek challenged, stepping toward him. You'll show me that temper of yours? The one that scared off your first wife? Rowan looked confused for a moment, then understanding dawned. You've been talking to Claire. Smart man, Derek said with a mocking smile. She had a lot to say about you, none of it good. And you believed every word, Rowan said, shaking his head. Did she also tell you she made up those stories during the divorce to try to get more money? That there were never any police reports or restraining orders? because none of it happened. Derek faltered. She wouldn't lie about something like that, wouldn't she? Arya asked. The same woman who just tried to extort $500,000 from Rowan, the woman who hid money during their divorce. Doubt crept into Derek's eyes. It doesn't matter. You still left me for him after everything we had. We didn't have anything real, Arya said softly. I see that now. What I have with Rowan, that's real. Derek looked from Arya to Rowan, his anger seeming to deflate. You've changed, he said to Arya. You're not the woman I knew. No, she agreed. I'm not. And that's a good thing. For a moment, Arya thought Derek might lash out again, but instead, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I lost my job, he said quietly. The board said I was unstable. They gave me a choice, resign or be fired publicly. Despite everything, Arya felt a flicker of pity. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Derek asked bitterly. Isn't this what you wanted? Me getting what I deserved? I never wanted you to suffer, Arya said honestly. I just wanted to live my own life. Derek looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slightly. I should go. That would be best, Rowan said, moving to stand beside Arya. Derek walked back to his car but paused before getting in. For what it's worth, he said, looking at Arya, I am sorry for everything. After he drove away, Arya leaned against Rowan, suddenly exhausted. How did you know to come back? Martha called. She was dropping off some groceries in town and saw his car heading this way. Rowan held her tightly. Are you okay? I am now, Arya said, looking up at him. But Derek mentioned Claire. Do you think they planned this together? I wouldn't put it past her, Rowan said grimly. But it doesn't matter now, they're both out of our lives for good. As they walked back to the house, hand in hand, Arya felt as though the last pieces of her old life had finally fallen away. Ahead of her was a future she had never imagined, but now couldn't live without. A life with Rowan at Hollow Creek Farm, where she had found not just peace but true happiness. What she didn't know was that one final test awaited them. One that would force her to choose between the life she'd built with Rowan and an unexpected opportunity that could change everything. The autumn air carried a crisp chill as Arya and Rowan worked side by side in the barn, preparing for the upcoming harvest festival. 3 months had passed since Derek's visit, and life at Hollow Creek Farm had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Rowan's divorce was finally official, and Arya had fully embraced her new life in the country. Can you believe it's been 6 months since you got off that bus? Rowan asked, stacking hay bales for the festival display. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, Arya said, smiling. Other times, it feels like I've been here forever. Is that a good thing? Rowan's eyes held a hint of uncertainty that still surfaced occasionally. Arya walked over and wrapped her arms around his waist. The best thing. The sound of tires on gravel made them both turn toward the barn door. A shiny black SUV with government plates was pulling up to the farmhouse. Are you expecting anyone? Arya asked. Rowan shook his head. No, let's go see what they want. They walked out to meet 2 men in suits who were getting out of the vehicle. The older man stepped forward with an official-looking badge. Mr. Cade, I'm Agent Miller with the Department of Agriculture. This is Dr. Thompson from the University Research Extension. We'd like to speak with you about your farming operation. Rowan's expression was guarded as he shook their hands. What's this about? Perhaps we could talk inside, Agent Miller suggested. In the kitchen, Martha served coffee while the men explained their visit. We're part of a new initiative to identify innovative farms for a national sustainable agriculture program, Dr. Thompson explained. Hollow Creek has come to our attention due to your remarkable success with organic methods. How did you hear? About us? Rowan asked. That food blog that went viral, Agent Miller said. Plus your farm's production numbers are impressive. You're getting yields that most organic operations can only dream of. We're here to offer you an opportunity, Dr. Thompson continued. The government is establishing 10 model farms across the country to showcase sustainable farming practices. These farms will receive substantial grants for expansion, plus ongoing support for research and development. Rowan's eyebrows raised. And you're considering Hollow Creek? We're not just considering it, Agent Miller said. "We're offering it. Your farm is exactly what we're looking for. The perfect size, location, and track record." Arya squeezed Rowan's hand under the table, excitement bubbling inside her. This could be the break they'd been hoping for, financial security and recognition. For all Rowan's hard work. "What's the catch?" Rowan asked cautiously. Dr. Thompson smiled. "No catch, but there are requirements. The farm would need to host regular tours, educational programs, and implement some experimental methods we're developing. And of course, there'd be paperwork. Lots of it." "I'd need time to think about this," Rowan said. "Of course," Agent Miller replied, sliding a thick folder across the table. "All the details are in here. The grant is substantial, $5 million over 5 years. Arya nearly choked on her coffee. $5 million would transform Hollow Creek Farm, securing its future for decades to come. "We'll be in touch next week for your decision," Dr. Thompson said as they prepared to leave. "This is a competitive program, Mr. Cade. Don't wait too long." After they left, Rowan sat at the kitchen table, staring at the folder. "This is incredible," Arya said, her marketing mind already racing with possibilities. "Think of what we could do with that kind of funding. We could expand the greenhouse, upgrade the irrigation system." "Slow down," Rowan said, his voice oddly flat. "We don't know what strings are attached yet." Martha refilled their coffee cups. "Government money always comes with strings," she said wisely before heading home for the day. That night they pored over the documents together. The grant was even more impressive on paper: funding for new equipment, buildings, additional staff, and research partnerships. But as Martha had predicted, there were conditions. Hollow Creek would need to follow specific protocols, host weekly tours, and essentially become a public demonstration site. "I don't know about this," Rowan said, leaning back in his chair. "I built this farm to be my own, to run it my way. But think of the impact you could have," Arya countered. "Teaching others, influencing national policy on sustainable farming. Isn't that worth some compromise?" Rowan looked troubled. "Maybe. I just need to be sure we're not giving up more than we're getting." The next morning, Arya found a message on her phone from Jennifer at Weber & Klein. Curious, she returned the call while Rowan was out checking the fields. "Arya, thanks for calling back," Jennifer said. "I wanted to let you know about some changes here at the company." "What kind of changes?" "The board fired half the executive team, including the CEO. They're restructuring completely, focusing on ethical business practices and sustainability." Arya was surprised. "That's quite a shift." "It is, and that's why I'm calling. They want you back, Arya, not just in your old position. They're creating a new role, Chief Marketing Officer for Sustainable Brands. They want someone who truly understands the values they're trying to embrace. Jennifer, I'm flattered, but I'm happy where I am. Before you say no, you should know. The package they're offering: triple your old salary, equity in the company, and the freedom to work remotely 3 weeks a month. You'd only need to be in the city for quarterly meetings." Arya's mind raced. The offer was too good to dismiss outright, especially with the remote work option. She could keep living at Hollow Creek most of the time. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Jennifer said. "But like I said before, they're moving quickly. They need an answer by the end of the week." After hanging up, Arya sat on the porch swing, conflicted. Just when she thought she'd left her old life behind, it was calling her back, but on completely different terms, terms that might actually be compatible with her new life with Rowan. She was still sitting there when Rowan returned from the fields. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, reading her expression. Arya told him about Jennifer's call and the job offer. "So you'd be living in the city again?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "No, mostly here. I'd only need to go in occasionally." Rowan was quiet for a moment. "You should take it." "What?" Arya hadn't expected that response. "It's a perfect opportunity for you, Arya. You'd be crazy not to consider it." "But what about us? What about the farm?" "Nothing has to change," Rowan said, though his eyes betrayed his uncertainty. "We can make it work." Later that day, Sarah called to discuss the government grant offer. As a lawyer, she had insights they hadn't considered. "This program looks legitimate," she said after reviewing the documents, "but be careful about the control you'd be giving up. Once you take their money, you have to play by their rules. That's what I'm worried about, Rowan admitted. On the other hand, Sarah continued, this kind of backing could secure Hollow Creek's future, and with Arya potentially taking that corporate job, the timing might be perfect. What do you mean? Arya asked. Well, if you're going to be traveling for work, Rowan will need more help on the farm. This grant would pay for additional staff, maybe even a manager for when both of you are away. The conversation left Arya with even more to think about. Both opportunities seemed to be pushing them toward a more complicated life than the simple existence they'd built together. That night, lying in bed, Arya turned to Rowan. Do you really think I should take the job? Rowan was quiet for so long that Arya thought he might be asleep. I think, he finally said, that I don't want to be the reason you turned down an amazing opportunity. I don't want you to look back someday and resent me for holding you back. I wouldn't. You might, he interrupted gently, and I couldn't bear that. What about the grant? Arya asked. Are you going to accept it? I don't know yet, Rowan confessed. Part of me wants to grab it with both hands. The other part is scared of losing what makes this place special. They both fell silent, lost in their own thoughts about the future. That suddenly seemed less certain than it had just days ago. The next morning, Agent Miller called to check on Rowan's decision. I need more time, Rowan told him. I'm afraid time is running short, Miller replied. We have other farms on our list if Hollow Creek isn't interested. I didn't say we weren't interested, Rowan said quickly. I just need to be sure it's right for us. I understand. But I should mention, our team has been doing additional research on Hollow Creek. We've discovered some potential issues with your water rights that could complicate things. Rowan's grip tightened on the phone. What issues? My water rights. Are solid. There appears to be some question about the eastern boundary line. Nothing major, but it could affect your eligibility for the program. After hanging up, Rowan was visibly upset. They're pressuring me, he told Arya, using some made-up issue with my water rights as leverage. Can they do that? I don't know, but I don't like it. Rowan ran a hand through his hair. This isn't how I want to do business. Arya spent the afternoon researching the government program online, looking for information about other farms that had participated. What she found troubled her. Rowan, look at this, she said, showing him her laptop. 2 farms that joined this program last year have complained about excessive oversight and control. One farmer says they've practically taken over his operation. Rowan's expression darkened. I knew it. They don't want partners. They want puppets. Maybe we should talk to one of these farmers directly, Arya suggested. Get the real story. Next day, they drove 3 hours to visit Green Valley Farm, one of the operations in the program. The owner, Tom Wilson, agreed to meet them for lunch in town rather than at his farm. I can't risk them seeing us talking, Tom explained, looking nervously around the small diner. They monitor everything. Who is they? Rowan asked. The department agents, the university people, they're always around asking questions, checking records. Tom looked exhausted. At first, the money seemed worth it. New equipment, repairs we'd been putting off for years. But now? What changed? Arya asked. They started demanding we try their experimental methods, crops that aren't suited to our soil, chemicals they claim are organic but don't feel right to me. Tom leaned forward. When I pushed back, they threatened to withhold funds, said I was in breach of contract. Can they do that? Rowan asked. Apparently they can. The contract gives them a lot of power, more than I realized when I signed it. Tom sighed. My advice? Run far away from their money and their promises. On the drive home, they were both quiet, processing what they'd heard. I'm going to turn them down, Rowan finally said. I'd rather struggle on my own terms than succeed on theirs. Arya reached across the seat to squeeze his hand. I think that's the right decision. What about your job offer? He asked. Have you decided? Almost, Arya said. I just need to clarify a few things with Jennifer. The next morning, Arya called Weber and Klein and asked for specific details about the remote work arrangement, how many days she'd actually need to be in the city, what kind of travel would be required, and most importantly, how much freedom. She'd have to set her own agenda. The board is fully committed to making this work for you, Jennifer assured her. They recognize that your connection to sustainable farming is what makes you valuable to them. They don't want to take you away. From that, satisfied with the answers, Arya made her decision. That evening, she found Rowan in the barn, checking on a new foal that had been born the previous week. "He's getting stronger," Rowan said, smiling as the wobbly-legged colt nuzzled its mother. "Just like his dad, stubborn and independent," Arya. They teased, referring to the stallion that had fathered the foal. Rowan's smile faded a bit. "I called Agent Miller today, told him we're not interested in the program." "How did he take it?" "Not well. Mentioned the water rights issue again, hinted that they might need to investigate further." Rowan shrugged. "Let them. My paperwork is in order." Arya took a deep breath. "I made a decision too. I'm going to take the job." Rowan's face was unreadable. "You're sure?" "Yes, but with conditions. I'll work from home most of the time. I'll only go to the city when absolutely necessary, and never for more than a few days at a time." Arya stepped closer to him. "This farm is my home now. You are my home. Nothing will change that." Relief flooded Rowan's face. "I was afraid you might want to move back to the city, at least part-time." "Never," Arya said firmly. "Besides, who would help you with the harvest festival next week?" As if on cue, Martha appeared at the barn door. "Speaking of the festival, there's someone here to see you both. Says he's from the local paper." They followed Martha back to the house where a young man with a camera was waiting on the porch. "Mr. Cade, Ms. Lane, I'm Jason from the County Herald. We're doing a feature on local farms for the Harvest Edition, and everyone says Hollow Creek is the place to start." "We'd be happy to help," Rowan said, his arm around Arya's waist. "Great. I heard you turned down that big government program. A lot of folks are wondering why." Rowan glanced at Arya before answering. "Hollow Creek Farm has always been about independence and doing things our way. Some opportunities come with too high a price." "Even $5 million?" Jason asked, eyebrows raised. "Some things are worth more than money," Arya said, "like freedom and staying true to who you are." The interview continued for another hour, with Jason taking photos of the farm and asking questions about their sustainable practices. By the time he left, the sun was setting, painting the fields in golden light. "You know," Rowan said as they walked back to the barn to finish the evening chores, "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" Arya asked, enjoying the cool evening air. "We could use some of your corporate salary to expand the farm ourselves. No government strings." "Still attached," Arya smiled. "I was thinking the same thing. Maybe add that greenhouse you've been talking about. Start the lavender field you've been dreaming of. And hire some help so you don't have to feel guilty when you're away on business," Rowan added. "I'm always going to feel a little guilty," Arya admitted. "But it helps knowing I have this to come home to." The next week was a whirlwind of activity as they prepared for the Harvest Festival. Arya officially accepted the position at Weber and Klein with a start date after the festival. Rowan finalized plans for winter planting and began interviewing potential farm helpers. The day of the festival dawned bright and clear. The farm was decorated with pumpkins, corn stalks, and colorful mums. Local vendors set up booths selling crafts and food. A band played country music near the barn, which had been transformed into a dance floor. Arya stood at the entrance, greeting visitors and handing out maps of the farm tour. She caught sight of Rowan giving hay rides to excited children, his usual reserve melting away as he answered their endless questions. Martha appeared at her side. "You two did a fine job with this festival. Best one yet." "It was mostly Rowan," Arya said modestly. "Nonsense. He never would have opened the farm like this before you came along." Martha patted her arm. "You've been good for him. For this place." "And it's been good for me," Arya said, watching as more cars pulled into the makeshift parking area. "I never imagined I'd end up here, but now I can't imagine being anywhere else, even with your fancy new job, especially with that. I get to have both worlds now, the career I worked for and the home I never knew I needed." The festival was a huge success. Nearly 500 people came through Hollow Creek Farm that day, many of them asking about CSA memberships and future events. Rowan was overwhelmed by the positive response. "We could do this more often," he said as they cleaned up that evening. "Maybe a spring planting festival, summer farm dinners." "Look at you," Becoming a social butterfly, Arya teased. Must be. Your influence, he replied with a smile. As the last vendors packed up and drove away, Rowan took Arya's hand and led her to the south field, where they had set up a small fire pit earlier. Sit with me for a minute, he asked. There's something I want to talk about. They sat on a blanket beside the fire, watching as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. What's on your mind? Arya asked, leaning against his shoulder. Us, the future. Rowan took a deep breath. I've been thinking about what you said to that reporter, about staying true to who you are. And I think who I am is someone who loves you, who wants to build a life with you. Not just for now, but forever. Arya's heart raced as Rowan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. I had this made from a piece of the fence post you were leaning on that day, the day you told me you were running towards something, not just away. He opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful ring with a small diamond set in the wooden band. Will you marry me, Arya? Tears filled her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. As he slid the ring onto her finger, Arya thought about the journey that had brought her here, from a shattered heart and an uncertain future to this moment of perfect clarity. I love you, she said, looking into his eyes. Thank you for being where my future was waiting. Thank you for being brave enough to find it, he replied. The harvest moon rose over Hollow Creek Farm, illuminating the fields they had tended together, and the life they would continue to build. A life neither of them had planned, but both now couldn't imagine living without. 6 months later, they were married, in the same field where he had proposed. Martha baked the cake, Sarah officiated, and even Jennifer came from the city to celebrate. Arya wore a simple white dress and wildflowers in her hair. As they exchanged vows, Arya thought about the late-night bus that had brought her to Hollow Creek, with nothing but a duffel bag and a broken heart. She had been running then, from pain, from humiliation, from a life that had crumbled around her. But Rowan had been right that first night. This had been a good place to stop running, and an even better place to start living. After the ceremony, as guests mingled and the band played, Arya spotted a familiar silver car pulling up at the edge of the property. For a moment, her heart stopped. Then the driver got out. It was Derek, looking thinner but healthier than the last time she'd seen him. He stayed by his car, not approaching the celebration. When Rowan noticed him, he squeezed Arya's hand. Do you want me to ask him to leave? He asked quietly. Arya thought for a moment, then shook her head. No. I think he just needed to see that I'm okay, that we're both okay. She raised her hand. In a small wave, Derek nodded once, then got back in his car and drove away. You're something else, Arya Lane Cade, Rowan said, admiration in his voice. Most people wouldn't be so gracious. I've learned a lot about grace in the past year, she replied, about forgiveness too, mostly about love. As they danced under the stars that night, surrounded by friends and the farm they both loved, Arya knew with absolute certainty that she had found where she belonged. Not in the city with its glittering facades and social masks, not in the corporate world with its politics and pressure, but here, with a man who saw her for who she truly was and loved her for it. The future they had built together wasn't perfect. There would be challenges ahead, balancing her new job with farm life, navigating the seasons both on the land and in their relationship, perhaps even children someday. But they would face it all together, with the strength they had found in each other and in this place that had become their home. For Arya, who had once measured success in promotions and social media likes, success now meant something entirely different. It meant waking up beside Rowan each morning, working the land that had healed them both, and knowing that no matter where life took them, they would always have Hollow Creek Farm, the place where her future had been waiting all along. Happy? Rowan asked as they swayed to the music. More than I ever thought possible, Arya said, and meant it with all her heart. Above them, the stars shone bright in the country sky, witnesses to a love that had grown from the most unexpected beginnings into something as strong and enduring as the land that had brought them together. The end.